In a post-apocalyptic Colombia, two survivors called Savon and Yomak enter the forest in search of food. They are part of a tribe led by Uri, Savon's father, who appears on the scene and scolds his son for risking his life by entering forbidden territory. The young man, however, says that he has already proved himself to be the best hunter in the tribe and promises to bring food to his people. Uri then decides to test the boy and lets Savon lead the group, with everyone setting off on a hunt through the forest, armed with spears and clubs. On the way, Savon meets Caleb, a young tracker who is often looked down on by the group for not being such a skilled warrior. He says that he has found prey a few meters away, but Uri warns him that the place is part of the forbidden zone, beyond the tribe's limits. Nevertheless, the young man insists and heads towards the prey, with Uri ordering the group to go along before Caleb gets hurt. After walking a few meters, the young tracker finally finds the creature, but Savon takes the lead and, together with the other warriors, goes on the attack. The group then comes across a prehistoric beast the size of a bear, which has somehow been brought back to life. The monster uses its fangs to attack the group, but the warriors strike back with spears tied to ropes and try to trap it in tree trunks. However, the beast is stronger than they thought and the warriors are thrown away, including Yomak, who disappears into the trees. Caleb then seizes the chance and holds the rope with all his might, while Savon hits the creature in the neck with a spear attack. Finally, one of the warriors jumps on the creature's back and begins to strike it with his blade, with Savon ending the battle with a clean blow. Afterwards, the tribe celebrates this victory and Savon is seen as a hero, but Uri also congratulates Caleb, as it was he who tracked down the prehistoric animal. The celebration, however, is interrupted when Yomak appears with his arm badly wounded, as if he had been bitten. Soon his skin begins to pale and his teeth become sharper, and the group realizes that he has been infected by the mutant disease. Before becoming one of them, Yomak asks Savon to eliminate him, but his friend hesitates. Finally, when the young man is taken over by the mutation, he sets out to attack Savon, but one of the tribe's warriors protects him, eliminating Yomak with a spear thrust. Faced with this sad end, the group is forced to return home, without suspecting that a mysterious archer is watching them from afar. Minutes later, they reach the tribe, which is located in a region known as Grey Rock. There, Savon meets Doral again, who is happy to see her future husband, but the warrior is still shaken by the loss of Yomak. Joining the rest of the group is Caleb, who watches the couple with sadness as he hides a secret passion for Doral. The only one who knows this secret is his younger sister Miru, who is relieved to see her brother safe. However, Caleb feels guilty about what happened to Yomak, because it was he who crossed the tribe's boundaries, even against the leader's orders. While the two siblings talk, Uri goes to the elders and tells them about Yomak. He believes that the best thing to do is to leave Grey Rock and find a new home, but the elders refuse, as the whole world is dominated by mutants. Although they don't know exactly what happened, in the past humanity developed a dangerous pathogen that turns people into mutants. Thanks to this, the human species was almost completely destroyed and the elders believe that their tribe is the last survivor on the entire planet. For this reason, they don't risk crossing the areas outside the forest, fearing that there are only terrible creatures. However, Caleb doesn't believe this and says that they should look for survivors, just as his father Jared did in the past. However, the elders say that this is madness, as it has been years since he left and he has never returned. Despite this, Caleb is determined to find new tribes, even against the requests of Miru, who is afraid of losing her brother. The next morning, while Miru is asleep, Caleb decides to continue his journey and collects water and supplies for the trip. However, just as he was about to leave, he comes across a group of mutants heading towards the village. Minutes later, Savon is on the lookout when he sees one of the guards confronting the infected. Before long, the entire village is invaded by the creatures, who, despite looking like a zombie, show superhuman strength and great aggression. Savon, Uri and the other warriors try to stop them with their spears, but the whole place is surrounded and the tribe is forced to hide in the cave. In the middle of the battle, Caleb is attacked by one of the infected, but Uri saves his life and finishes off the mutant. Unfortunately, he is knocked down by the leader of the group, who finally bites his neck and transmits the mutant pathogen. Savon helplessly watches his father being attacked, but as the new leader of the tribe, he orders everyone to enter the cave as soon as possible. Miru ends up being taken inside and Caleb tries to follow, but the infected block his path. Seeing that they can wait no longer, the elders order the cave to be closed and block the entrance. Outside, the survivors do their best to escape from the infected, including Doral, who is being chased by one of the mutants. Seeing the girl in danger, Caleb rushes towards her, and using a hammer he strikes the infected in the head. Before she can thank Caleb, Savon appears and hugs Doral, relieved that his girlfriend is okay. Once again, Caleb is forced to see the two of them together, but there is no time to lose and he sneaks into the cave to see if his sister is safe. The three of them then watch from afar and see the place completely surrounded by mutants, waiting in front of the cave. Savon tries to think of a way to fight them, but Caleb suggests going to the mountains and asking other tribes for help. Like the elders, Savon doesn't believe there are any survivors, but Caleb goes anyway and Doral convinces her boyfriend to do the same. Savon reluctantly agrees, and the three of them set off through the forest, with Caleb using his skills to find traces of survivors. Halfway through, Doral sees a strange object tucked into Caleb's clothes, which she says she's never seen before. The young man then shows her a book given to him as a gift by his father, who also taught him to read when he was a boy. Because of the outbreak of the mutant pathogen, humanity has lost touch with knowledge and technology. As a result, the ability to read has been lost, and apart from Jared, Caleb is the only one who can read in the whole tribe. Savon thinks it's all a waste of time, but before an argument can begin, another mutant appears in the forest. To everyone's surprise, the infected one is Uri, and on seeing his father, Savon refuses to attack and is knocked down by him. Uri is about to bite his own son and Caleb rushes to Savon's aid before it's too late. Luckily, the infected is eliminated by a blow from a hatchet, thrown by the same mysterious archer who had been watching them. He introduces himself as Amal, a skilled warrior who met Caleb's father on his travels. He also promised Jared that he would protect his son, but now he needs Caleb's help and calls the group to accompany him home. On the way, Amal reveals that the infection is transmitted by simple contact, and the bite only accelerates the transformation. It is therefore likely that the three of them are already infected and need to take the cure, made from a mysterious yellow powder. Hours later, the group finds Amal's hideout, where they meet his wife Nina and their son Persk. Nina is not happy to see the infected intruders in her home, but Amal calms her down, saying that with their help it is possible to create more of the cure, and thus save the world. Despite her fears, Nina accepts and invites everyone to a meal, with Amal telling them more details about the cure. He reveals that Jared managed to find the knowledge to develop it by making a mixture of plants and fungi. Once it was ready, his plan was to take it back to his tribe, but Jared was robbed and eliminated by an individual called Gagen. Now the only hope of developing a cure lies in the hands of Caleb, who can read the books of ancient knowledge and discover the formula for the yellow powder. Although unsure about it, the young man accepts the mission, and the next day, Amal takes everyone down the river in his boat. At the same time, in the cave, the elders order all the survivors to wait until all the mutants have gone. However, Miru and two warriors, Evan and Remy, try to find a way out and start searching the inside of the cave. They find a passage through a well, and despite the risks, Miru enters the water and swims in search of the exit. Back on the river, Amal guides the boat to an island where the warriors of his order, known as the Brotherhood, live. After Gagen eliminated Jared and took the cure, he took refuge on another island, where he aggressively controls everyone. It was at this point that Amal and other warriors came together to create the Brotherhood, with the aim of creating another cure and confronting Gagen. Amal hopes to count on their help, so he heads to one of the lighthouses built on the island to summon the members of the Brotherhood. In the meantime, the trio reach the other side of the well and find a way out through the top of the cave. Before they start climbing, Evan starts bleeding from the nose, indicating that he too has been infected. Despite this, Miru insists that the three of them flee the cave, but as soon as they start climbing, they see the infected watching them from the other side. The young woman then tells her companions to fall back, but the three of them end up slipping and Evan breaks his leg. The mutants advance quickly, and in an act of sacrifice, Evan stays behind while Murray and Remy escape down the well. Back on the Brotherhood's island, Amal lights the beacon, but this attracts a group of mutants and he orders the trio to flee as soon as possible. With his bow and arrow, Amal fires at the infected, but he ends up falling into a crack in the ground. Caleb sets off to help him, but Savon orders them to flee in the boat before they become mutants. Caleb refuses and sees the infected gathered in the middle of the crevasse, with Amal doing his best to fight them off with his bow and arrow. The young man then decides to save his friend, but Doral begins to feel ill and starts bleeding from the nose. This confirms their suspicions that the three are infected and need to get to the island of Gagen to find a cure as soon as possible. Far away in the cave, Miru and Ruben return to the group, only to find the elders and other survivors taken by the infection. With nowhere to run, the group can only await their sad fate, but Miru is hopeful that her brother will return to help them. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood's warriors see the beacon lit and go to the scene, where they find Amal, who, despite being wounded, has managed to put an end to the group of mutants. He then asks his companions to help the trio. The warriors know they can't face Gagen's army, but Amal insists that the three youngsters are the last hope of creating a cure for the infection. Meanwhile, the trio reach the island of Gagen, where they find a ruined city. The three enter the place and see a vendor being attacked by one of the guards and accused of theft. After being punished, the guard lets him go, and the vendor flees and is approached by Caleb and his companions. They reveal that they are looking for Gagen and the yellow powder, but when they see that all three are infected, the guy runs off and Savon chases after him. However, he loses sight of the salesman, and when he returns, he sees Caleb and Doral being captured by the guards. The two are taken to Gagen and his daughter Giselle, and he orders his soldiers to expel them from the island before they infect anyone else. Caleb, however, accuses the man of having eliminated his father to get the yellow powder. But instead of revenge, he wants to find the cure and distribute it to everyone, but Gagen doesn't take his word for it. To prove it, the young man picks up a book from the floor and recites the biography of the former president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. Like Jared, Caleb also knows how to read, so he can discover the formula for creating the yellow powder. In return, Caleb demands that some of the cure be given to Doral, Savon, and the people of their tribe. Despite the offer, Gagen refuses, as he doesn't believe that Caleb will be able to replicate the yellow powder in time. Besides, his reserves are saved for future generations and he doesn't want to share them with anyone else. Giselle disapproves of her father's selfish attitude and asks him to give Doral some of the cure while Caleb works on the yellow powder. The tyrant then orders the soldiers to take the young man to the library, but forbids the powder to be given to Doral or any other intruder. As soon as everyone has left, Giselle begins to suspect that Caleb's accusation about her father is true. Suddenly, she is cornered by Savon, who has climbed the building they were in and tells the girl he needs her help. He needs the yellow powder to save his friends, and even though she doesn't want to betray her father, the girl agrees to take him to the place where the cure is kept. Minutes later, they find a kind of safe, but the door is locked and only Gagen has the key. However, Savon realizes that the safe hasn't been opened for a long time and suspects that the cure is somewhere else. Far away, Caleb is taken to the town library, where he finds a table full of notes. Recognizing the writing, he realizes that this is his father's work and knows how to find the formula for the yellow powder, but it will take weeks. Unfortunately, the guard suspects that the young man is trying to deceive them and he must find a solution with the time he has left. That time won't be enough, because inside the cave, one of the elders begins to get worse and worse, to the point where he asks one of the warriors to put an end to his life. He refuses, but on seeing the old man's condition, Miru puts him out of his misery by plunging the spear into his heart. Meanwhile, Caleb does his best to unearth Jared's notes in the library, but his illness is getting worse and he can no longer stand. At that moment, Gagen appears and mocks the boy, saying that all his efforts are useless. Caleb soon realizes that the leader has no intention of creating a cure, because if he does, he will lose all his dominion. Then Giselle appears on the scene and warns her father that someone is trying to open the vault of yellow powder. The guy rushes off to see what's going on, but instead of checking the safe, Gagen rushes off to look for a glass vial inside a small opening in the bookcase. This reveals where the yellow powder is, and in a surprise attack, Savon knocks him to the ground and is about to finish him off. However, Giselle asks the warrior not to eliminate her father, and in return gives him some of the yellow powder to cure him. Savon then asks Giselle to take him to Doral, but she is about to succumb to the mutant disease. Seeing the intruder, one of the soldiers tries to attack him, but Savon strikes back by hitting the man on the head. Finally, he gives Doral some of the yellow powder and leaves the island, but first they have to find Caleb. Giselle then hands over the vial with what's left of the powder and asks the two of them to rescue him, because only Caleb can create more of the cure and save humanity. The couple then set off towards the library, where they find the young man about to transform. The two rush to make him inhale the yellow powder, but Caleb can't, so Savon punches him in the stomach, making him breathe forcibly. Thanks to this, the young man regains consciousness, but is still too weak to walk. Savon and Doral hurry to carry him to the boat, but are spotted by Gagen's guards, who draw their crossbows and fire arrows at the trio. Seeing that they won't be able to lose them, Savon asks Doral to take Caleb while he lures the soldiers away. The girl refuses, but is forced to go, and as soon as Caleb regains consciousness, the two run to the harbor and find the boat. While they are waiting for Savon to return, the warrior throws a branch far away and the soldiers are attracted by the sound. They go to check if the intruder is there and Savon takes the chance to run away, when he runs into the general. The two start an aggressive fight, with the general trying to hit Savon with his blade, but he dodges the blow and strikes back with punches and a headbutt. With his opponent lying on the ground, Savon takes his weapon, runs towards the boat, and the three of them row at full speed away from the island. However, more problems arise when the tide goes in the opposite direction and the boat is being pulled back. The solution is to head for the Brotherhood's island and find their way back to the tribe, with Caleb leading the group with his tracking skills. When they reach the coast, the group heads towards the mountains, where they find a bridge made of huge cables. The three begin to cross them, but suddenly Caleb feels a sharp pain in his leg and sees that he has been hit by an arrow fired by Gagen. The villain then orders the soldiers to capture the intruders and take back the yellow powder. Although wounded, Caleb manages to cross the bridge, but with the soldiers approaching, Savon decides to stay and stop them, while Doral returns to the tribe. Once again, the young woman doesn't want to leave him, but Savon rushes to the bridge and, using his axe, begins to cut the supporting cable. Seeing this, the soldiers try to retreat, but Gagen aims his crossbow and hits Savon with a clean shot. Even so, the warrior continues to hit the cable and manages to bring the bridge down, until he is hit by yet another arrow. With that final blow, Savon is eliminated and falls over the cliff, taking Gagen's soldiers with him. Doral weeps to see Savon lose his life, but in respect for his last request, she hurries back to the tribe with Caleb. As they make their way through the forest, they come across Amal and the Brotherhood warriors, who are happy to see them alive and take them back to the tribe. Hours later, they find the place overrun with infected, but with their bows and arrows, the warriors easily put an end to the mutants. Doral rushes into the cave, while Caleb stays behind to face the mutants trying to break in. Finally, the young woman manages to get through and rushes to give the medicine to Miru, who is about to become a mutant. With that, Doral saves her life and that of the rest of the survivors, with Amal and the Brotherhood's warriors eliminating what's left of the mutants. The tribe is safe, but in the distance comes Gagen, who demands the yellow powder back and points a crossbow in Caleb's direction. Furious at having lost the cure, he shoots at the young man, but Amal jumps in front of him and is hit by the arrow. Caleb is enraged, and armed with Amal's axe, he throws it at Gagen, who falls to the ground lifeless. With the villain defeated and everyone healed, Caleb reunites with Miru and goes to help Amal, who fortunately wasn't hit in a vital spot. Days later, Caleb passes on his knowledge, and with Miru's help, he teaches all the tribespeople to read. However, he knows that he still needs the knowledge of the island of Gagen in order to replicate the yellow powder and distribute it to all of humanity. So the young man says goodbye to Amal, Doral and Miru, and heads for the island that is now under Giselle's control. However, she doesn't share her father's wishes and wants to turn the island into a welcoming place where everyone can live in peace and share the cure with each other. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.